computer. All right. Well, welcome. It is November 17th. Welcome to Starlight right before Thanksgiving. Thank y'all for being here. Today we have the wonderful and amazing JoAnna Arnold, and she's going to talk to us about presentational tasks. That's my reminder to hit record, which I've already done. And so we're super thankful that JoAnna is here. And I just want to remind everyone that she's volunteering her time and talent. If you have a question, maybe put it in the chat box. If you see some sort of grammatical or cultural concern, shoot me an email. We don't want to get into all of that in the middle of a presentation. We want to be respectful and kind. So you can shoot me an email and I will forward that if you notice anything.
Absolutely, proof me.
I had
invited.
I had the wrong gender on something one time and somebody said something. I was like, thank you, but also please don't do this right in the middle of my talking. But anyways, if you see something, just shoot me an email. All right, so today we're going to hear from JoAnna about all her awesome stuff, and then we'll do our regular looking ahead. If you have any needs or wants, we can talk about that, and then you get a certificate of attendance. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, JoAnna, if you want to try to share your screen. And hey, Myra and Jason, glad y'all could join us.
Okay. We're going to see if it works. We did a few minutes ago.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. Sweet. Yep, we're seeing it.
Great. Okay. So this is my first time doing a Canva presentation through the Zoom. So I'm excited to see how this one works for you guys too. But I know how tired you are, and I know how how hard you've been working. And I'm very grateful for your time today, because when I was looking at some of the choices and I was like, oh, presentational, because for me, that was like, okay, I can do that. I can talk about that. But I started reflecting on it, and then I thought back to some of my college stuff that I have, like tons of notebooks full of things that I just finished up with Auburn. And what I remembered most was the input-output theory that we learn sometimes when we're in world language classes, learning to be teachers, about when comprehensible input transforms into meaningful output. And so let's see if I can, there we go. That's me again. I look much better in that picture than I do today. But I am a world language advisor at Furlough Charter School. So I'm in Americus, Georgia. And we have a small school. It's around 600 students, K through 12. So charter schools are a little bit unique, but a lot of what I'm sharing today really came from my time in Sly County at the high school there. I was there for 15 years, and I was teaching French 1 and 2 and Spanish 1 and 2, sometimes Spanish 3. On a good day, that's what I also like to add. You want the good days to outnumber the frustrating ones. But I'm also a service learning coordinator at Furlough now. And so that means I get to combine a lot of my projects, a lot of the presentational tasks. I also try to have service oriented goals with that too. So if you see some of that, I don't want you to feel like, oh, she's at a charter school, so it's different. Like, I want you to be able to use any of these pieces. And the other thing before I get started with the different slides is that I have a lot of research in here. Some of these things are not my original ideas. I found some rubrics that I'm sharing too, because I know that when I plugged into working with Martina Bex, or I've Claudia, Elliott, there are so many people who are sharing wonderful things that I made sure to go ahead and just let you guys know up front. I've combined and brought in all of these good ideas. So that's my hope, is that you'll see something that you think might work for you, just a different take on it. But presentational mode is probably one of my favorite, because the kids gravitate toward it. So if I can get them to structure their output, so we talk about planned, practiced, and revised work. It's not that interpersonal. It's not it's not interpretive, but when those come before presentational, it makes the presentational mode, the work that we see that the students generate, makes it much more meaningful. So another way of looking at it is it's closely monitored speech or written work, and it's not spontaneous. So I see that, like, even with my kindergartners, first graders, whether it's 7th or it's high school, when they have a chance to prepare, and I can go ahead and make my classroom as safe a space for them as possible, that I can really get them to start talking and using their language skills. I do look for the accuracy in word choice and grammar more because it's, they've had a chance to plan, but I like authentic audiences also. So there will be times that I will have a kindergarten class come in, another class come in, so that my older kids can present to them. And we like to mix it up a little bit. Important scaffolds should be provided for the students as they prepare for these. And then again, there's no opportunity for the students to learn to negotiate the language, but sometimes I think their confidence is built with this presentational mode if they've had really good success with the other activities that precede it. All right, so
I want to know what that house was. What was that project? What was she talking about?
oh yeah, okay. So what I do with family, okay, I can go, well, I don't know how to go back.
I think you can hit the back button.
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
So she's one of my faves. So when the students that she was last year, this was 6th grade, I always do my family units, whether it's French or Spanish. I do that around Thanksgiving to Christmas. So when I come back, we'll be working on it. And the students are allowed to do their family tree as a holiday themed Christmas tree if they want to. So they take the winter holiday theme. And this girl is adorable because she said, my family's kind of different. She had some issues with it. She said, I don't really like winter. I said, well, what do you want to do? What would you prefer to do then? So I give them all that choice. And so she anchored all of those balloons to the house because she had been with me even a couple of years before when we did the Baton Rouge. So the kids always ask to watch that movie if they're in a French class. But that's her family. And so she stood up and did a presentation, a project where she made her visual, and she's very artistic. She did all of the drawing, all the designing, and she put her family members in there. And then she was able to talk about, I asked, I think maybe 3 or 4 so that they can prepare in advance. But she did not want an official family tree. It gave her a lot of stress to talk about it. She had lost her mom, and she has a stepmom now, and she just didn't know how to get around it. So she loved the fact, and she volunteered to go first, that she could choose how she wanted to do the visual.
That's awesome. That's what I love so much about presentational mode. You can let them be as creative as possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, of course, are any of y'all teaching middle school right now?
I think I might have a class next year.
Lucky. Huh. All right. Well, middle schoolers like to do things that visual art where they can bring in. They've just come out of some of their elementary classes where they had art on a regular basis. And so here is Nisi did the Familia Perez. So you see, she did follow through with that that fire theme or that winter theme, and she has her family right there with the stockings, and she would go through and talk to them about it. So when they're producing language, I really try to get them to give me their original ideas. So this one on the bottom is one of my, I loved my kids to write books, but I also do an in-house spoken language competition. And that is presentational mode because they practice and prepare for that in advance. And I have had a lot of success. I took the model that Flag uses up in Atlanta. I don't know if y'all go to for the spoken language for the high school. The little kid, the younger the kids, we could video and send in, but I just decided to do one for all of my students. And they loved it. They loved it so that they were able to receive their certificates. But I tried to stay as true to those guidelines as possible. If you've never done your own in-house spoken word, it's really not that bad. The students like to be recognized, and it's a good opportunity for them to practice.
Cool.
I jotted down all of the overarching themes in case anybody had needed a refresher. A lot of the new things that we're seeing from Patrick Wallace on the website were all of the lesson plans that people worked on over the summer to prepare So I thought I would drop those in the slide so that if you're thinking about, what you can plan for to bring out something new to your presentational task or mode, that you would just glance over those again.
And if your school is looking at starting an AP program, these are the AP themes. And so I think if you can start talking about these themes and framing what you're doing as these themes from the very beginning, it makes it a whole lot easier to sort of structure when you get to an AP or even very upper level course. Not that I've taught anything above French 3 in a long time, but it makes it easier if you're already using the words and using the terminology and the structure.
Well, and even when you're just doing your plans for the year, if you're needing to change the order, the sequence of when you teach things, are you guys by yourselves or y'all with a team, or?
I think everybody sort of, a couple different, I know poor Val's the only Russian teacher up there. She's all on an island. I think most of us are just in small schools where it's like one or two, like.
So you have a lot of autonomy too, though, right? You're kind of like me. You can plan how you want to do things.
Yes. And the thing that we have done in our department based on we are using those new Godot units, but the thing that is so important to me as, we're a group of 3 and I have one Spanish 1 teacher, one Spanish 2 and 3, and I'm the only French teacher. There's not a lot of room to collaborate if you don't make it happen. So we have those same units from Godot. And so what I'm doing in level 1 is what he does in level 1 Spanish. What we're doing in level 2 and 3 is the same in French and Spanish. So it opens up a whole nother level of communication between us about sharing ideas, activities, structures. And so I love that. And we all use the themes and the stuff from Godot too. So I'm not sure if that's possible where everyone else is, but we have the flexibility to do that. And I love it. It is so nice to have the same conversation and just say, you do yours in Spanish, I do mine in French, and go. It's great.
Well, and if you're looking at if you need 6 units for the year, then there you go. And then you can change up what global challenges would look like there's just so many ways to work the lessons or the things you've been doing, but then to kind of challenge yourself to shake things up a little bit.
I mean, or just survive. If you're like me, you're just trying to get through the year and trying to do a good job. That is okay too.
You know what though? I mean, because I do better when I shake things up a little bit. I get most frustrated when it's set. Now you can obviously go too far and always try to do something new, and then that backfires on you with students who always feel like guinea pigs. I've said before to you guys that I love thematic units. And so I am going to always have a little bit of a science lesson, a little bit of a math lesson in my units. And I think we've all naturally done that, even back in the day when we were using, I had the big books and all the series and everything. There was always a little bit of that in there. But that's how I can bring in some of the cultural standards too. So this was a thematic unit that I did a while back with Haiti Cherie. And so I always advocate for a different way to look at what you're doing. If you can put your idea in the middle and then kind of graph out. So where do you fall with these? Because I'm always going to do literature. I'm always going to have a little bit of music. So I love art, but it's not that hard for me once I had the visual of how to set it up. But that's a different lesson. Let's go back to presentation so I can give you guys some examples. I love the I am poetry. So here are 5 examples of what I've done recently in French and Spanish. Now I did put the gallery walk on there that Claudia Elliott had posted out on Facebook not too long ago, because that falls in with the kind of school that I'm at. We're a project-based learning school, so gallery walks are very in vogue, so that we have all kinds of work out in the hall and that you can see the different student work. The I am poems, I did them in the shape of a heart. And so the students, basically all the I am with the adjectives and the descriptions. And so they would walk by and I would have classes. I would have kids reading them to their classmates, looking for theirs. This might be, 2 or 3 different classes worth, and I picked the best ones and put on the board. So I love anything that looks like a calligram. And we talk about heart songs a lot and what's important to students. The family tree we talked about already. Message in a bottle is a written presentational activity that we've just been working on. So my students, that's third grade class, but I mean, honestly, it's fine for French or Spanish 1. Instead of writing a letter or an email, they had to pretend that they were pirates, and they had to apply to be a pirate on the ship. And we did a lot of work with descriptions, but also things that they like to do and don't like to do. So I kind of leveled up with that. So we went from, just they can describe themselves, but then they got to transform. They got to learn all these other words that were more fun for them in French. And so what they did on 1 is they wrote their letter. They were applying to be a pirate on a ship. They had to talk about how mean or how, vicious they were and different things like that, and what they liked to do, what they could do. And on the other side, they had the symbols that went with it. So if I was reviewing anything with shapes or symbols that are important, coat of arms, anything like that, they were able to get that. So, and then of course you can talk about French pirates. It connected to what these kids are doing in their social studies. So that's part of the collaboration that I have going on. And then at the bottom, I have Jose Marti. That's Cultivó una Rosa Blanca. And that's one of, if there's ever a simple poem, I have the kids illustrated, and then they would present that. So whether it's a written or spoken or both, you have the kids being able to, and actually Message in a Bottle, they were able to read them to me and present them. But I did that one-on-one. I didn't ask them to stand up in front of the class. My older kids, they get to present to everybody. So do y'all have any questions about those? And you might already have something like this, and you might please speak up if you see a way that you like, if you're doing something like this and it's even better, let me know so I can keep adding to it.
I remember the graphic that you showed about your the unit organization, and it's such a great way of organizing all of your materials. Will you walk me through how you sort of organize? Well, that's not presentational. I might have to.
No, but no, it's okay. I'm happy to. Because inside of that, I have one of these. I just copy and paste it and change for all of my units so that I can, and then I decide the order. So this is not necessarily any particular order. And depending on the amount of time I have, some could be presentational, where others might be. So like, here's the calligram over here. I might have misspelled the word calligram. I don't know. I just realized that. But we do a mosaic of the hearts.
Right.
And that's the I am poetry there. So that's a presentational mode. When we do the song, You Are My Sunshine in French, they perform that. Whether I video it and send it out to the different retirement homes around here, because that's a favorite song of most grandparents. So we get to do, and there were 3 songs that we used there, but You Are My Sunshine, and then they made sunshine cards. So in French, and I also do this one in Spanish too, because I can do a lot of this with the Dominican Republic since they're right there together. So I can flip this into Spanish pretty easily. But they made sunshine cards to give to the residents. So that's a service project. The big service project we did is I work with a school in Haiti. And so we're getting ready to do a fundraiser in the next few weeks for a water treatment to set up for the school there. But I love the Système Solaire. So if I want to do weather, that's basically weather and the solar system. So if they are studying something similar to that in their science class, I try to time it. I don't always collaborate real heavy with other teachers, but geography and human needs.
Yeah,
so
I
we'll
love it.
do Maslow's triangle there.
This is awesome. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to distract you. We can keep going.
No, you didn't distract, but I'm happy to give you guys anything you want. So if you see something that you want to, because I was in graduate, because I went back and got my specialist, I had to this was what I did one of my big projects on.
Right.
So,
Okay. No, I love the visual.
okay. This, we just did this one for La Toussaint and then El Dia de los Muertos. So my middle schoolers, I don't normally do a past tense with them, but I did. They had done the Soy Yo. There's this cool video with, have y'all seen are y'all Spanish teachers? The Soy Yo? The kids went, I'm telling you, it is the best video for middle schoolers because it's quirky and it's out there and it surprises everybody. So they had done an activity with that several weeks before, and then we started talking about how to celebrate family members who've passed away and remember them. And I grabbed this idea about the tinfoil somewhere, I'm not sure. But I just had tinfoil from the house and they pressed it out, they put it down with tape, and then we did a simple poem where they went from present to past tense. So this was easier on presentational because I don't know that I could get middle schoolers on a 9-week class schedule to understand the grammar behind it. But now they know, they can hear me speaking and know when I'm talking about someone who's living or someone who's passed away. But they got to choose the symbol that would go. And I mean, they loved this one. And that's the first time I've done this with the tinfoil. Super cheap. And a lot of the teachers, I've got them on the bulletin board outside in the teach, and they're not all perfect. There were some mistakes in there.
Right.
But that was a fun way to do a visual that it didn't take any time. It only took one class period for them to put those together. I call this one two different things, the mi yo mismo yo or soy yo. This was supposed to look like the Be Real. I think that's the name of it, Be Real.
I have heard everything about Be Reals and I have no idea what they are. And I'm almost like,
It's like Snapchat, but you have the picture you're taking and then it takes a picture of you too.
oh,
So
I'm gonna skip
so
out.
they wrote these out for me.
Okay.
So I think my point here was that I used some interpretive and interpersonal kind of things. Here were the questions, here were the communication points and a lot of this was review because I'd had them for so many years in the elementary program.
Mhm.
So this first one, the smaller paper, it really just was a getting started in class, and then they would speak to each other and they would have the paper if they wanted to. Then we went to more of a presentation with the longer one. And they were able to, so the Soy Yo, the smaller artwork that you see here was just an extension of this interpretive task. And then when we did the autobiographical presentation, I do this one with Spanish one or French one, but I make it a little bit more, the visual has to be a nicer piece and there are no words at all. So while they were able to put all of their words on the one for the middle school, high school would not do that. And they can bring in items from home if they would rather do that. And so they'd pick up something that reminded them.
That's good.
They use Google Slides or PowerPoint. But I just this is a way I differentiate depending on the different levels. I can take the same idea and move it around.
And it highlights really when you get to start with the interpersonal and that practice, where they're no longer trying to read the thing to say what they need to say. Now they know how to say it. It makes the presentational piece just so much more powerful for them. It goes from being like, I don't know what I'm saying to, oh, I know how to say this. Come on, just let me give me 30 seconds to say the thing. There's a huge confidence boost when you let them work with others and get really good at it before they have to do a presentation. And I mean, I see, I follow this everyday IPA thing. And so we start something new. And by the end of class, because I've structured it with an interpretive task, with several interpersonal tasks, by the time they get to that presentational, they're like, yeah, I got you. I'm gonna write you a paragraph. You know what? I'm gonna write you 2. Something they learned like 40 minutes ago. So I mean, it just having that support really leads to some really great output in the presentational mode.
Well, and I went from using a big notebook to one of the smaller books, and they love the glue and the staple to just put all of whatever work they want into. I mean, they've gotten super creative with it. So now when I give them something like, I don't know how to say it, I'm like,
Flip through it.
you might go back and, they have a reference point and they've
Right.
made some tabs for that. I also give a lot of, when they walk in the classroom, I will automatically have that interpretive task for them, something to read I might have something about zombies that I got from Martina Beck's.
Right.
I like to bring in a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
I'm not all in on just comprehensible input, but I don't follow it as a program, but I use it a lot because the students enjoy just having something new to read, something's a little more entertaining. But then the authentic text still is very important. So I just
Right.
like to shake it up. And
All the French teachers are jealous of Somos because our version is about a third and we're like, oh, this looks so great, but I can't do this over 3 years. So yeah, that Martina Beck stuff is really cool.
and a lot of it's free.
I know.
A lot of it is free. And so
Yeah.
I go trolling for the free stuff as much as possible. And then I can have my kids write their own story too. So
Now,
if
do
they
you
read a story
use,
about zombies, then I show them how to write their own. And then
right.
we go to the story jumper and they put it into their own book.
Now,
So
do you do their, the timed right sheets? Do you do those, the numbers? So we stole this, our department adopted this from Martina Beck's, but it is a magical way of assessment. We don't give quizzes like multiple choice quizzes. We don't give multiple choice fill in the blank grammar tests.
Mhm.
Our quizzes are 4-minute timed writes, and it's literally how many words can you write and at what proficiency or performance level will you be rated? And
Yes.
it's just a great little thing. And the kids really love that they can show me what they know instead of trying to answer the questions that I think they should be able to answer. It gives so much, I call it differentiation by product because they can tell me what they can tell me.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I love it so much.
Well, so I turned my presentational task, I extended into a listening activity. So when they so the family tree,
Mm-hmm.
no, what is this one? This was not,
What
no,
class?
this was the Mimio Mismo Yo. This is, yeah. So they talk about their favorite class, maybe, how many students are in there. So this isn't necessarily a listening activity that went with the Soyo, but it's an example. Once they stand up and they do their presentation, the kids have to chart the answer. So they're actively listening.
Right.
And then at the end, after the person has presented, if they've missed something, they get to ask the question and then the person has to answer.
That's awesome. I think that's one of the things that we kind of forget about in presentations is what do the kids who are not presenting do? And I have fallen victim to this in recent years. I have stopped giving them something to track what the others are doing. And you've just reminded me that it's so important.
Well, I grade that. So instead of trying to talk to them about be quiet, you'll get a 0, or I might take you, if you're
Exactly.
if you're misbehaving, they know that this is like an easy grade for them. They just have to give me just words in there.
Right. Perfect. I love it.
And then they know then it gets really easy when they know how to just go through it. So this one was about a favorite class.
Awesome.
I might come back to that later. I'm going to skip on this. It's just a lot of the first, if you want kids to a lot of my online things, I put that in at the last minute. So we might come back to that one in a second. One of my favorite rubrics that I use, I think came from Godot a while back, and I'll tweak it every now and then. But, when thinking about the assessments, using the language, capturing and maintaining the attention, organizing, and then what was appealing about the presentation. Always giving them those rubrics in advance when they're doing their presentation. Preparing for it is the best way to go. But I believe that whatever assessment I'm going to give, it should build their confidence. But I was one of those. I started out as a French teacher, and I still have horror stories of my professors because I was in college when I first started taking French, and I would be in tears. I would be scared to death, and I would just absolutely be in tears. So I like to I really go out of my way to make my students feel confident about what they're doing. So they still have to speak though. They don't get out of it. So the formative, what they're doing during class, the summative when they have a formal presentation, and then the feedback that they can get. I just feel like using a variety of rubrics is going to help me with that as much as possible, so that they aren't bored with, oh, this is the same kind of activity they see that I've given them, but I'm looking for something different every time that they're presenting, whether it's, spoken or written. So I love the holistic ones. I would much rather use the holistic, but the analytic is what they're very much accustomed to. These were two I found online, and I think the one on the right is a Godot one, and this one is the Learning Llama, I think. But one thing that I make a point of doing is only grading one piece at a time. I mean, that's what I try to do. Instead of the whole thing, I will pick, like, okay, today you've got, you're doing this presentation for me, but really today I want to see how your pronunciation has improved. So I
you use
might,
this as a formative for sure.
yeah, absolutely. And that way it takes the pressure off of them. And I can even say sometimes, well, how would you like for me to grade you? Which one of these do you want to focus on? And they let me know.
That's awesome.
But here it is. Yeah, the Learning Llama. So that was one's a little bit more. I tried to stick to the 20 slide rule. I really did. But then I started
Listen, we
thinking these were some
all the
resources that I could give you guys, because it comes from, me. I like to pull from different places, and I just found this one and I like this one a lot.
I like the one that you showed earlier that mentions the presentations, because the thing that I'm seeing as the semester progresses is either one of two things. They only want to write me some sentences on a sheet of paper, and that's it. Or they only want to do the art and not do any of the French. And so I've got these two ends of the spectrum, and I'm like, yes, I care about the French, but I also need you to actually have a good presentation. Like, I need you to do both.
Well, when I was teaching the high school, I would always give them one chance. Like if maybe they made a 70 on something, I would give them one day, one revision to bring it up.
Okay.
So, and normally, they would come back at least 10 points higher. It was never going to ever be an A. That could give them 10 points or something. But I saw that they became more willing to, and this really didn't apply to the students who were goofing off, because if, that's a whole different situation. But for the students who were really proud to have a chance to say, this is where I think I could have made it better, and then they get to come back one-on-one and do that, and they get more points, there was some incentive for them.
Yeah, for sure. And what great thing for like ownership of students, having ownership over their learning and their own performance. I feel like after COVID, they're kind of passive again. Like there's a huge amount of, I'm just here, tell me the thing I need to do. And so anything you can do that gets them engaged and invested in their own success, I think is fabulous.
Well, I haven't taught Spanish 1 in a year or two, but it really is just getting them motivated. So it's either motivated or they need confidence or something. I don't know.
A little bit of grit. I think we're all noticing that there's a lot of, I'll try, but I won't try twice. Lack of grit.
Well, and they have to have some stamina too.
Yeah.
They've gotten where they can give up. Yeah, the grit, the stamina. So this is a rubric that I found from Martina Beck's, and you have 3 different days. I have stacks and stacks of note cards that I keep everywhere all the time, and so I'll do some feedback on that and hand it out if I'm in the mood to go through and do all those things. But sometimes I can just do the letter on there. But again, I let them choose, or I let them know in advance of what are we really looking at, because all of it's overwhelming. But if we're working just on, like I said, okay, so word choice here, just whatever and that way I can individualize it for the students too. But it goes from this basic one, and then you can start looking at novice high, and how you move up. And then you go to intermediate. And
I've
this was
not
free.
seen
These are
those.
free. This
Yeah,
one's free.
those are new to me, and I think it really helps communicate performance over, like, in details. That's great.
And what you can also do is look at go to Teachers Pay Teachers on pull it up on free and type in rubric, and a lot of this comes up for her. I just think a lot of times doing a presentation really comes back to the rubric that you're going to use.
For sure.
And then here's another type of rubric that has all the images with it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can also, I think the best way I could use something like this would be if there was a reflection and they had to, or they were working in small groups and they could use this between presentations. So if there's a small group of them doing that, then they can figure out where they're at.
And her rubrics are so visual, and they are just so easily accessible to kids and to teachers. I really love her rubrics.
Yep. So it goes year 2, and up to year 3. So
Yay. Well, thank you,
there
JoAnna.
you go. But
sorry.
but if there's anything you guys have that you can share back with me, I would, I'm always very excited to see some different things. I really want to make sure that that people hear me say, just because I'm at a charter school doesn't, these were things that I did when I was at a traditional high school too. I just have to be a little bit more creative with the little bitties.
Yeah, everyone says, oh, well, you have K-12 certification. I'm like, yes, but do not put me in K-5. There's no way I could survive K-5. Like, bless
You heard me talk about my first day.
Oh,
I taught high school for 20 years. I'm like, oh, I think I'll teach elementary. It'll be fine.
That's so scary. That's a scary, scary thought.
Oh, it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. And I thought I was gonna have my little cart. I just roll in the room. No, elementary school is completely different.
They are angels. Like, I know people fuss about middle school being so hard, but I think elementary is the one that, you got to be a special kind of person to teach elementary.
Well, they but the rubrics are better for me than just a lot of grades. So I'm not hung up on the grades as much. And I used to be the teacher that would give the mean extra long multiple choice test just to see if they can dig in and figure it out. And when I came to the elementary, I left all that behind, but then I started to see that the types of assessments that I was giving just were, it wasn't what I needed to do.
I get it. And then you remember the rubrics that we used to have where it was like, you have 5 or fewer grammatical mistakes. You have 3 or fewer. I'm so glad those have gone by the wayside too, because I just didn't want to sit there and tally and count. I really love the ones that are performance/proficiency based, because it just gives you a chance to see what kids can do. And I saw that you said in there that you're looking at grammar a little bit more specifically because they have time to practice. Even I focus with my kids. I'm like, hey, I know that you're not going to get every single word right. I need you to get it as right as possible. I'm not grading you on every error. I'm grading you on what you can say and how well you can say it, and how creative you can be with what you're saying. If you copy the same 6 words over and over, that's not what I need. I need you to give me your opinions and use the things that we've learned. So I think rubrics have come a really long way, even since I started teaching like 13 years ago.
And like when I do something with weather, I'll have them give me a rough draft if they're writing out weather things before and we go through and we correct a lot of that. So I very rarely will give a grade that has anything to do with, specifically grammar, unless I've proofread it before.
For sure. And that's such a great way.
Only where it impedes comprehension.
Exactly. Like, I can't figure this out and I'm a sympathetic listener. But I think you've also just hit on something also that's great. Another critical part of presentational activities is the time to revise, is the time to get feedback. And that just helps you to get to know your kids better and to have that time to conference and really dig in. Because there's some kids that I'm like, wow, all of a sudden you're doing really well. Did I miss this in the first unit? Like, having that one-on-one time is really critical in developing what they can do. So bravo to you for reminding us of that.
Oh, well, and let me tell you, it's a hot mess in this room a lot of days. I don't have it all worked out, but the energy, just being able to flip the class from being the, oh, I can't do this, that mindset of not being able to it, to, well, this was fun. I want to, and now they'll tell me what they want to do. I give them a lot of choice.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm not there yet, but what I do see, I told you we do these timed rides. So we do 4 minutes, 4 minutes, and then 8 minutes at the end of the unit. Brain dump. Tell me everything you can tell me. You can use all the resources around the room. And in the beginning, they were like, I only wrote 20 words. And now at the end of the first year, I've got kids who are like, I did 57 words in 4 minutes. And so I'm not doing anything different. It's just they're building up and they're knowing how to work it. And you can see them. It's so great to see them be like, look what I can do in French. Like, I love it. I just love presentational stuff so much when I get to be proud of themselves. So, well, thank you so much. Let me see if I can take back. I'm going to stop sharing.
I can just stop sharing if you need me to.
No, I think I stole it back from you. Honestly, I think I just did. Maybe I didn't. What am I sharing? Here's my screen. Sorry. One day you'll get a recording where I'm not fussing about my lack of Zoomology. I'm just not a good Zoomer. So I have got a couple looking ahead things. I think that what we've done for our past 3 sessions, maybe minus one that was out of order, I don't remember, but we've done interpretive activities, we've done interpersonal activities. JoAnna brought us home today. JoAnna, I keep JoAnnaing you. JoAnna brought us home today with presentational. And if you're paying attention, that's sort of the structure of the IPA. And so one of the people that I know who's doing IPAs in such a fabulous way is Lisa Shepherd. So she's actually going to join us next month and she's going to talk to us about IPAs, and I'm going to not talk much so that she gets 59.5 minutes because she's magical. So if you are free in December, I know December gets a little bit hairy, that will probably be a wonderful thing. Every time I do a Lisa Shepherd anything, my mind explodes. So she's fabulous. I have a typo there, but flag is in March. It's March 3 to 4. Registration is open, which I feel like is a little early, but maybe it's not. So if you haven't registered, please register. Talk to your folks at your school about getting some funding. Hopefully you can get them to pay for you to go. It's in Atlanta. And I know for me, that's a little bit more convenient. I can drive up and drive home. I think Val and Danny, that might be maybe convenient for you. I'm not sure. Myra, I think you got a long trek. I'm not sure, but anyways, if you can, flag is a magical time of year, and it's great, I think, for foreign language teachers to have that specific professional development just for us. I mean, it's so important that we are learning from other people how to do our jobs better. And then if you are not going to be totally disheartened, like we were talking about, ACTFul, the conference in Boston is happening right now. And if you're on Twitter, even if you're not on Twitter, there's so much happening. Everyone's sharing their stuff. They're talking about the cool things. If it won't break your heart too much, check it out because there's a lot of cool stuff happening online with ACTFul right now. I really wish I could have gone. I'm so envious.
Well, I'm going to be, I have a session. I don't know when it will be, but I'm doing that on the service projects.
In flag?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sweet. And I'm doing two actually. I'm doing one about rural language teaching. So y'all join me. Bye, Myra. And then my mentee and I are doing one on mentor-mentee relationships for language teachers. So yeah, I'll be at flag for sure. I love flag so much. So anyways, let's open up the mics. Does anybody have anything they need for us to sort of work at? I think everyone's leaving. It's time to go.
No. I want to ask.
Yeah, come on, Val, what you got?
Maria, she just sent me a question. She could not find the link. Would you please send her this recording?
Yeah.
For her. I told her that you recorded. So can you send it to her?
Absolutely.
That recording link.
I will send it to everyone because what I do is after it's done processing, I upload it to our YouTube playlist. And so it's available online. So she doesn't even have to wait for an email. If she wants to check out the YouTube playlist, it will be there.
What is it? YouTube, what?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel where all of these things, I just host them there. So if you can't make it live, you can just go watch them. I'll send an email. When I have it posted, I'll just send an email to everyone.
Yes, please.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. All right, so if you think of anything that you're like, hey, I would love to learn more about this, we can make it happen through Starlight. So just send me an idea, anything that you need to talk about. And if you need attendance that says you were here, here's the code for it. If you're watching this online, this will be active until about 2 or 3 days before our next session, because then I go in and change it. So that's that. And y'all, thank you so much for joining. It was good to see everybody. And JoAnna, thank you so much. You're always such a treasure to hear from. And I think we all get jealous that we don't teach in Americus with you when you talk to us.
Please come anytime you want.
I know. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to stop recording for a moment as soon as I figure out how to stop recording. There it is.